Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, as you may have heard, the Fallout TV series that was promised back in 2020 has now entered production, which is very, very cool. And we've got a whole bunch of pictures people have taken from the edge of one of the sets, at the very least, that look very, very cool. They've been coming out over the last few days. So I thought for today we'd jump in, have a little chat about this, and take a look at some of these pictures. Should be cool. Okay, so yeah, first up, the Amazon TV series that has been announced. It was way back in the summer of 2020, so we're looking 2 years ago that they first announced it now. Has finally started going into production. We've got an Instagram post, which I should be able to show you around about now. So we got an Instagram post yesterday from one of the main stars of the show, Walton Goggins, who is apparently playing a ghoul, as exhibited in the picture here. And yesterday was day one on the Fallout, or 2 days ago now, apparently. Time zone's been in there, but day one of production. So that was sort of Monday into Tuesday, so very, very cool. So underway. Looks like, I'm guessing here, he's either off on his way into a makeup trailer or possibly he's staying there, but I'm assuming that would indicate it's a makeup trailer. But very cool nonetheless. So yeah, this has been promised for a while. There's a few pictures here that are quite interesting, and we can make some guesses about stuff, but it's kind of cool to have a look at. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation about how this is actually going to work out. It's a video game adaptation after all, and more of those have gone badly than have gone well, I think is probably a fair comment. But fingers crossed this will fall into the latter category, and it will be quite cool. As to what to expect from it, who knows? Obviously, they haven't told us very much about it at all, other than a few cast members. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think in terms of the world and the settings, there's so much that's unexplored and so much potential for new stories and stuff like that they could do really well. I think with Todd Howard as the executive producer, we can expect it to fit in with sort of the Bethesda era of Fallout. So it'll probably more in that style than, say, old school. So I think we can reasonably guess that. As to exactly what Todd Howard's role as an executive producer is, that could be a bit of an open question, really. Depending on whether it's movies, TV, streaming, which this is, and so on and so forth, the role of an executive producer can vary quite a bit. My guess is he'll be more on the kind of, obviously he'll be representing Bethesda's interest in the show, which will be considerable as owners of the IP. He'll likely have some creative input to make sure it lines up as a sensible and fitting addition to the rest of the IP as it stands and as Bethesda are adding to it. So I think wherever it ends up being, that's one place we can cross off the list of potential locations for the next Fallout game, for example, Fallout 5, when that comes out, which will likely be 27 onwards, probably 28, 29, somewhere around there, maybe even later, depending on release dates after Starfield and all that. Yeah, I imagine they'll do something unique and new, because when you look at how Bethesda do their games, if you look at, say, Morrowind to Oblivion to Skyrim, all part of the same series, but they go to different places, they have very different styles and vibes, they feature different things, dragons crop up in Skyrim, but they don't crop up in the other two. The architectural styles are vastly different as well, if you compare, in particular, Oblivion to Skyrim. With Fallout, you've got more of a cohesive design theme coming through from Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, but they go to very different locations. Obviously, the capital wasteland is the blasted desert that is Washington, D.C. Fallout 4 is slightly less deserty, but it's still a blasted wasteland around Boston, and that has its own unique vibe as well. And 76 obviously goes out into the countryside and has more trees and stuff, and fewer direct bomb strikes, except in the whole nuke mechanic, but anyway. So they tend to do something unique and standalone and that takes a different tone on the IP. And I imagine they will want to do something similar and do something more unique and separate again in terms of the TV show. So I'm guessing they'll probably go somewhere we haven't seen before. Down in the description, I'll put links to a number of Twitter pages that got photos on that we're going to have a look at, so you can check those out further if you like. One good place that is collating them, I suppose, is Chad Fallout 76 Podcast on his Twitter account. He's been pulling everything together, so there's quite a lot of stuff you can find by scrolling back through his Twitter feed, so worth a look there. I'll link that down below, as I say, to other people's as well. Let's have a look at some of these pictures, shall we? So, first up, we have the Macho Mando, VDG, who is apparently living in the area. These shots are of a set, which is a Super Duper Mart in the region of Staten Island somewhere. Apparently it's an old abandoned strip mall that they've taken over and busted up a bit, and so on and so forth. So let's have a little look through some of these. Okay, so here's picture number 1. Got a close-up of the sort of sign over the door there, and that definitely looks like it's come right out of the Fallout games, particularly the Bethesda-era ones. Obviously, there's a few little bits of difference around it, but most of that's down to the differences between video game graphics and the real world. But yeah, it definitely looks the part. You can see that having been there for a considerable period of time and taking a battering from the elements and in the post-nuclear world, so that's cool. Loving the way they've got the logo going. And I'm guessing they must have either attached this top section here or cut it out. Probably attached, so because it fits too well with the rest of the logo. So yeah, very cool there. The next one we've got on here is a bit of a long distance one. I think these are mobile phone shots taken from the pavement outside. So looking over the car park, we've got probably the least impressive vehicle of the lot that we're going to see today. I think this one. It looks like a Jeep or something like that that's had a skin kind of dropped over the top of it. But it looks at a distance like a blasted out husk of a vehicle. Possibly some kind of military thing, maybe. There's definitely a military vibe there, but the shapes and the lines they've gone for are consistent with the visual style of Fallout. I've got the back end of something else here that is also a bit more, perhaps a bit more convincing than that particular one is. We've got on the next one. You'd see a few of the boards at the back there. We can kind of ignore the modern equipment out there because that's just part of them setting up. But yeah, there's a backdrop. This will be pretty cool, I think. Obviously, it's boarded up post-war. We've got some lights on inside there, which is quite cool. Doesn't look like they've done a whole lot with the inside yet. I imagine they'll be dressing that up in the coming days. So perhaps this is a set that's going to be used later on in production, because if it started already, I guess they'd want it finished, wouldn't they? But very, very cool. Lots of corrugated iron, lots of boards just nailed on over there. That looks very much like something we would expect to see in the game, so definitely down for that. And one last one, we've got a truck. Now, this is way more like what we'd see in the games, I think, compared to the last vehicle. This has got the shapes, so the curves and the lines are very, very much consistent with what we see in the video games, so very, very cool to see that. It looks, the paint job and the damage and the wear and the tear on it is very consistent with what we'd see in a Fallout game as well, so it looks very, very cool as well. There's a better shot of this later, but you can kind of see that it's got a flat tyre at the back as well, which adds quite nicely. Obviously, the backdrops, this is probably not the direction they'll be pointing the cameras, but yeah, that looks like it'll be an absolutely fantastic bit of set dressing, so very, very cool. Wouldn't mind one of those to drop into my camps, actually, in 76. So yeah, here we've got a bit of a wider angle shot looking towards the front doors of the Super Duper Mart. Obviously, you see the logo there and glass roof. I'm guessing most of this stuff here will have been in place before they got hold of the location. Looks very, very cool. Definitely looks suitably distressed, grimy, and beaten up. Obviously, the crap blowing around post-war and possibly a little bit of fallout and radiation damage hitting the walls as well. Kind of smoke and dirt that you'd expect to see post-war. Lots and lots of boards, so yeah, more of what we've already seen. We've got some pallets and stuff leaning around. Whether or not that's part of the set or it's been used to move equipment in, who knows. It looks sufficiently beaten up that I'm assuming it's part of the set. Not so much the scissor lift there, but you know. So, a couple of days later, this chap seems to have wandered back over and had another look at it. We've got another vehicle showing up. They've moved stuff around a bit. Interesting to see whether or not these are drivable and they move them that way, or they just drag them using cranes or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, they've moved them out of the way. We've got some sand and gravel and stuff coming in, which, as we'll see in a minute, is clearly going to be used to make it look more post-apocalyptic. The interesting thing is, the location here is Staten Island, if I understand correctly, is a part of New York. My American geography let me down a little bit here, but I think it's that general area. It's not what you'd call a desert, generally. On the other hand, blasted by nuclear bombs, it's entirely possible that the region, certainly upstate a bit, might be a bit more desert-like. If you look at the area around Boston in Fallout 4, there's a lot of stuff coming back, but it's also pretty destroyed. There's a lot of dust and stuff blowing around in the aftermath of the bomb that blew up over the glowing sea and created the glowing sea. So sand, dirt and dust does make a certain amount of sense. There's, we'll have a look at it a bit more in a second, but there's some room to wonder here whether or not they might be going out more towards Nevada and New Vegas direction. I think it's unlikely because it's been done in the games. I imagine they'll go somewhere new, but if they were to do such a thing, the fact is in Staten Island would be entirely besides the point, because, you know, sets are often not where they're supposed to be in the series or movie or whatever it is they're making. So, yeah, it could well be somewhere very, very different, and they're dressing it up because they happen to have found kind of the perfect structure to start with, which would make sense. So, we've got a vehicle here that is very, very interesting. I'm guessing they're moving them around using cranes and dragging them about from the gist of this. But, yeah, I've not seen anything that like this. So maybe a few vans and stuff that looked a bit different, but nonetheless, the shapes are definitely very consistent with the Fallout universe. It looks pretty good. That looks absolutely beaten to hell. It was probably wherever it's going to be found when the bombs dropped, and hasn't moved in the however many years since, because although Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 were 200-ish years after the bombs dropped, hell knows when this might be. It could be any period after it, so be interesting to find that out. There's another little look at the sign. I think they're doing some painting or something to make this look a bit more distressed. It looks like there's a hose or something coming up here to what I'm guessing is some kind of airbrushing paint type deal. You know, spray paint thing. It looks hard to be sure from the angles and stuff, like they're putting the sort of black dirt on there that is now running down. So very, very cool to see that kind of work being done. It's a little interesting peek behind the scenes. The Super Duper Mart sign here, I really, really like that. That's the sort of thing I could see popping up in the Atomic Shop, you know, and having for your camps. That would really look very, very cool. Definitely a nice little touch, that one. I like that a lot. Very, very consistent with the games. We've got a bit of a wide angle here, it's a bit further down the road. From the look of the previous pictures, it was probably taken a bit further off to the right. Again, we see the trucks, and it looks to be about the same time. This obviously doesn't look too post-apocalyptic, so either they're going to dress this up and they'll be moving further down, possibly. Making this stuff way more rusty would be consistent with what we see in Fallout, so whether or not they'll actually do that, or they're just going to be shooting straight towards the door and you won't see it, because, you know, only what's in shot needs to actually look right, so that might be the case as well. So, the next set, we've got a bit more of the same. Another shot of this truck here. Looks almost like it's got Russian writing on it there. That would be odd, but I don't know. It's not exactly high res, that, so it could be anything, really. A little peek at the front of a car, which is what we're going to have a look at in a second. It's very, very cool. Got another flat tyre on this truck, which is, yeah, very consistent with the old beaten-up nature of the thing. We've got a peek through the doors. It's still looking a bit clean and stuff on the inside, so I'm guessing they've got a lot of work to do there, and they're working on the outside now. Or for now, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see where this goes in the next few days. I imagine we'll be seeing more pictures as people get a look at it. Obviously, the inside, they're not going to get a look at, so apart from maybe long-distance shots, but we'll see. We might see something cool. Either way, definitely liking the look of this. So we're getting a look at another car here. Really, really like this one. I think this is one of my favourites for sure. It looks like a family vehicle. Nice smashed-in window there. Very cool. Lots of rust. Looks like a tyre my mate had to put on his car recently when he had a flat. But very cool. I like the style. Again, it looks like something you could see in Fallout. I did see a comment on somebody's Twitter post somewhere talking about how weird it is to see petrol vehicles in a world with fusion-powered cars. Which made me think, because actually, it's not that weird at all. We know from the lore established in the games that the crossover period between petrol cars and fusion-powered cars was not a one-off cut-off point. There was a lot of overlap in there. So the idea that the remains of both would be around is actually completely consistent with the lore. It makes sense. And, you know, looking at the shift to electronic cars that we've got at the moment, we're shifting that way eventually on down the line. We'll probably all be driving electric cars, and the only non-electric cars out there, the only traditional ones, will be antiques and stuff like that in time. So I think it's fairly likely that the extended transition time is consistent with the lore, and there would probably have been a good few still kicking around come 2077, as there will probably still be in our world as it exists today. So, yeah, I think that's basically fine. In either case, they tend to look like much the same from the outside anyway. What's under the bonnet is what is significant, and we have no real idea here, apart from some darkness, really. So, who knows? But I really like the shape of this. This is very, very consistent with the design philosophy. The distressing of the destroyed paint job on there looks absolutely fantastic. Looks really, really cool. This is going to be a great thing to see on set. And another shot there of the truck. And that sign as well. Obviously, you see here that we saw the other picture before on the sign where they were doing some paint and there was stuff running down. That's not actually there yet. So obviously this is a little bit earlier, this picture. So moving on a little bit closer to what we have now, we've got some of this gravel and sand and stuff being dragged in, and they've stacked up some of the cars, so it looks like maybe the bomb wasn't that far away when it went off, if it's managed to blow a car on top of the other, or this pickup on top of the other car. Definitely creating that this is not how it's meant to be vibe. Well, again, we'll ignore the modern equipment, but I'm assuming they haven't finished distributing the sand and the gravel and stuff around. But yeah, there's quite a big heap of that here, and there's a load at the front, which means it could be a desert-like location, and they're going for that look. Or it could just be, you know, the destruction after the bombs dropped caused a lot of dirt and dust to blow in, and it's built up against things like the walls and the vehicles and stuff like that that have just been sat there. You know, it's been driven up against it like a snowdrift, only with dirt. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, until we get more information about the setting, it's kind of wild speculation at this point. Like I say, it could well be a more deserty kind of location like the Nevada or perhaps Utah or somewhere like that. New Mexico, maybe. Or possibly even some areas of Texas would be a place that we have yet to visit and could potentially be a cool setting for a Fallout game, so who knows? And therefore a series. But it's also possible it's just dirt that's blown in, so we'll have to wait and see. But cool nonetheless. This is another car we haven't seen before. This one's in better nick, which is interesting. Begs the question as to whether or not maybe our characters that we'll be seeing in the show, maybe they've managed to get a car running and they're travelling in it. Who knows? It seems like the sort of thing you do. There's plenty of video games that go around that idea. I'm playing one at the moment, although that's motorbikes. But yeah, having a vehicle to travel in would not be a terribly poor idea. Seems like a good idea to get away from trouble. Assuming it's not fusion power and doesn't get blown up when a super mutant pulls out a minigun and starts blasting your engine anyway. But on the other hand, obviously all this stuff is piled up around it, which makes it look like it's been sat there for quite a long time. But it's in surprisingly good nick, although the top actually, look at this, looks a lot more beaten up. So, I don't know, maybe it was a more expensive model. It's just been a bit more hard wearing. Either way, it looks very, very cool. The design philosophy, very, very much Fallout. Odd that it's positioned here against this background that is less post-apocalyptic, so I'm guessing they're going to be working their way along and they'll destroy this background as well. And they just haven't got that far, but we'll have to see. That's very, very cool. I do like the look of that car, actually. I like the colour. I'm just a fan of the green, I have to admit. Yep, another close-up on the sign here and peeking through the windows, the lights on. Looks like maybe they're doing some work in there. That could well be a construction-type light back there, so they may well be working on the interior. Who knows? But for now, it's just very, very plain. And again, we've got a bit of a close-up of the stuff stacked up here. There's some extra debris and junk in the back of this pickup as well, which is cool. Yeah, definitely brings a bit more to life. Like it was actually functioning when the bombs dropped. Not being used for something. You know, somebody was out driving it. So there we go. Again, a bit more of a wide angle again. A little bit higher up here. We get a bit of a better look at the top of the Super Duper Mart. Looking very, very nice. Yeah, that's really, really nicely done. In the style of the dirt, the way it's dripping down and stuff, is the sort of thing I would expect to see in a Fallout game. It's the same kind of art style that Bethesda use in their games, so really, really cool. So if we jump over here to a different account, I'm not sure if this is a first-hand post or not, so we'll have to see, but this looks a little bit more recent again. This one was just yesterday, and this is Fallout Films account, so again, I'll link this down below as well so you can find their Twitter if you want to. Let's have a look at this one a bit closer. Bit of a wide-angle shot here with all the vehicles and stuff on it. This looks cool. Ooh, that weird-looking one that we saw a while back's open here now. Looks like, interesting. Maybe we'll have a peek inside it. Maybe somebody will be hiding in there. Who knows? That would be quite cool. Obviously, decent wide-angle look at this. A lot of sand and dirt and stuff blowing in. I have to see what the final positioning of this ends up being. If they pull the cameras far enough forward, who knows? The fact the car park's showing through, it could well be a desert-type set. It's looking more and more like it, isn't it? But yeah, very, very interesting to see how that looks. Yeah, definitely a very post-apocalyptic vibe and a nice wide angle on the shot that we've already got that shows a few extra details. Looks like somebody's wandering around with some kind of rake or something, so I guess they're working on the layout of the sand and stuff at the moment. So that's cool. Okay, another picture this particular person's got, which is a bit of a close-up of the car here. I'm guessing this one was taken while they were sneakily all off and they'd all gone home, or possibly while they were all off on a lunch break, because somebody's vaulted the fence. Well, maybe, yeah, somebody's definitely climbed the fence to get this far in. But it looks really, really cool to see a nice close-up of this. It's a bit more high quality, because, yeah, you can really see the detail in the damage on the car there. That looks really, really good. That's going to look absolutely fantastic. Again, this one's a little bit earlier, because the sand's not around and they haven't finished painting the sign yet. But very cool. So, there we go. I think that's probably enough of a look at that for now. That's everything I've found in the last couple of days. I've got to say, it looks really, really cool. Liking the look of this set. Looking forward to seeing more. I've no doubt more pictures and stuff will come out over time, and obviously there'll be official releases and stuff and information as well. If I understand correctly, it's due for release next year, the series, so they'll film it this summer, then all the post-production will happen through the winter into the spring, and it'll probably come out sometime in 2023. Definitely looking forward to that. Like I say, game adaptions, they can be hit or miss, as I'm sure you guys are just as aware of as I am. The Witcher springs to mind as an example that did really well via Netflix. I know there's some people out there who are not biggest fans because it's not that similar to the games. That wasn't the point, so, you know. On the other hand, Fallout's got a great deal of potential for telling new stories. There's vast swathes of America that have yet to be touched on, and as many potential stories as there are potential survivors, really, so that's very cool. Definitely pleased to see actor like Walton Goggins and Kyle MacLachlan as well. Both two of the actors that have been announced for the series. Both look like they'll be really good. They've both played some fantastic characters in a lot of stuff over the years. If you were to dive into their IMDb lists and stuff and pages, I think you'd find a startling number of things that you recognise that they appeared in. They're not usually top billed actors, but obviously they are on this one. But they're both very well known for playing characters and stuff like that, and they do absolutely fantastic jobs, so very, very cool. It'll be interesting to see how this one goes down, how it's panned out, and how it plays out, and what they look like and stuff. For Ella Purnell, not so familiar with her work. She's one of the only other actor who's been mentioned. She could definitely pass for a Wastelander if you know, stuck some makeup and some dirt all over her. I could see that working, so I'm sure she'll do absolutely fantastically, and I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, if we're expecting something that's exactly like what we've seen before, I think disappointment will probably be the result. But if we're expecting something new, and that is a separate addition to the wider Fallout universe, I think that's probably where this is going to land. It's more consistent with the way Bethesda do things, and it makes sense given that there's vast differences between live-action shows and a video game. So that would be a sensible route to take because you can make it work better. Obviously, I think we'll see things like factions that we're familiar with making an appearance, at least some of them anyway. So that'll be very, very cool, and interesting to see how the monsters and stuff go. Things like super mutants and other creatures, I definitely want to see some of those. When you look at, say, The Mandalorian and stuff like that, those have done amazing work recently, but some of the creature effects have been, shall we say, iffy. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. To be fair, some of the creature effects have been fantastic. Some of them, So we'll have to see how well the team behind this actually pull it off. I hope they're able to do a good job on that. That's the thing that concerns me more than anything. But looking at the set here, it looks very, very cool. I'm not going to make too much assumptions and guesses as to what might be going on, what the story might be like, what it'll, how well the thing will land. I think it'll be fun, different. I think going in with too much expectations will probably lead to disappointment, but that's usually the case when you're just speculating wildly, which is all we can really do at this stage. So, yeah, very much looking forward to hearing more about this, seeing more about it, and it should be very, very cool. So, hope you guys are interested in this. Hope you guys enjoyed having a little look at this. I know I'm a little late to the party on some of this, but I had to wait for the climate to stop trying to kill me. So, you know, it's still swelteringly hot, so I'm going to head off and open a window now because I'm getting warmer by the second. So, thank you all for bearing with me over the last few days of swelteringness. Thank you all for watching. I do hope you guys have enjoyed. As usual, likes, subs, and all that good stuff, if you would like to. Very much appreciated. Social media links for my stuff and for these posts as well will be down in the description too, if you want to check those out. And the merch store is down there as well, along with channel memberships and various other appreciated buttons if you'd like to hit any of those, check any of that stuff out. It really helps out, so I do appreciate it. And we will be resuming our live streaming this evening as well, so I do hope you'll join us for that. We've got Doom Eternal to finish off, and then we'll be back into 76 tomorrow, so should be good fun. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.